This masterclass is dedicated with love to my mum and dad, Doug and Heather Chisholm.
I've taken a quote for this class today, a beautiful quote from an old Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, and the quote is, as you can clearly see on the bridge, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we can play the saxophone. And I think it's a beautiful quote and very appropriate for our work. Of course, it casts some doubt into the age of our wonderful instrument, but I'm not going to go into that for now. I'm just going to talk about the fact that, or the importance of listening as we play. Camera 1, check. Camera 2, check. Camera 3, check. Sound, check. Hi friends, and welcome to this little masterclass coming to you today from the beautiful climes of Western Serbia. And I'm very happy to be here barefoot on the grass in the morning and to give this little masterclass. The title is The G String of Pythagoras, and it's really just a class focusing on intonation, really, a passion of mine. And I did a video last year talking a little bit more about the metaphysical symbolism aspects of number and harmonics. This one today is really focusing on the practical playing applications, mainly for saxophone. Most of my classes are for saxophone, although all this information could be applied by different instruments, obviously. Yeah. In this class, which I've developed over the years, we cover subjects like tone production, sound, ear training. I've developed a whole series of little exercises or pieces which we do as a group because a lot of the intonation work is best done together. Then we go up the harmonic ladder, and today I'm going to go up to the 19th harmonic because we're also talking a lot about prime numbers today. And as we go, we just learn how to intonate the notes, how are the intervals tuned in their natural form. And after that, I have a few practical applications for you, song learning. How can we use this intonation information in our playing? Brain waves, prime numbers, and a few other little things along the way. I have different locations, but I'm going to just start here. And I'm just going to basically run it as if you were here, just imagining we were all, here together with our wonderful instruments. And the only thing is I can't really answer any questions right now, but I'll do my best. So we interrupt this broadcast to bring you the 7 cardinal sins of intonation, aka 7 common mistakes, little things I often pick up in my musical travels, and little things I hope to, in the main, be able to help you with and remedy in this little masterclass. Yeah? Sin number 1 is simply not listening. Now, the beginning quote over the bridge by Epictetus was, of course, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but actually I'm dead serious. What often happens when we're playing is that we're so involved with our own sound that we lose a little bit the ability to really pick up what's going on around us. And so a lot of my work, the group work, helps us to have that chance and ability to listen as carefully to the sounds and instruments around us as we are to ourselves. Now, I know this sounds simple, but it often doesn't happen. Yeah? And it's a really, really important part of this whole intonation world, which is really about relationship and adjustment and really being able to make those fine changes in a nanosecond. Yeah? Sin number 2, playing too loud. This one's particularly applicable for saxophonists. and it's also a question of balance. What often happens is we are simply playing a little bit too loud or giving too much, and that again lessens our ability to listen in carefully and to react to the things around us. Now, I sometimes like to think of the listening part as the active part of the equation, and the playing as the passive part. By that I mean, with the listening, you can actively penetrate into the sound, and the more you can do that, the more ability you have to adjust and fine-tune. And if you're playing too loud, that simply just can't happen. Yeah. So just have a maybe careful think about whether you're maybe shouting when you could be just speaking or even whispering. Yeah. Cardinal sin number 3, I call stabbing in the dark. So with this intonation work, a lot of it is theoretical, and we will learn how to tune the intervals in their natural form based off harmonics or just intonation, so that we learn that, well, actually the perfect fifth is tuned slightly higher than the tempered one, the third is lower, and so on. With that information, we then take it and we apply it to simple songs, which is why I've like putting later on some gospel and spiritual songs where we can really straight away in a group apply the information. Yeah. Once we've done that, once we've kind of internalized how do we tune these intervals in the not right way, but in the natural way, and how do we use that in songs, then we can be in a state in which we are no longer stabbing in the dark. Yeah. Number 4, sin number 4, tuning up rather than tuning in. We all know the situation, and it can be quite nerve-wracking if you're a young player when you're asked to tune up to a note. Concert A, please. Thank you. Yeah. Do I go in? Do I go out? Do I go up? Do I go down? That's tuning up to a note. Tuning in to a note would be more like having like a group chord, or spending some time where we can gradually take the time to warm up as instrumentalists and to tune into the group, making adjustments the whole time. For that reason, I put in a little exercise called monochrome I like to do, in which we really have time to feel the group, feel the room or the space, and tune into each other. Yeah, obviously making fine adjustments, and of course maybe changing our mouthpiece position and so on. And of course it's still valid sometimes to tune up to a note, but what I'm looking for in this work is to tune in to the group, and there's a subtle difference if you think about that. Yeah. Intonation is also a lot to do with confidence, yeah? And having a bit of time like this gives us a bit of a chance to get that confidence with the group, and all their little individual idiosyncrasies and so on. Yeah. So that's that one. So number 5, yeah, being stuck in a rigid system. So a lot of us have grown up as musicians in, let's say, Western Europe, or in my case New Zealand, mainly being exposed to tempered music through pianos and organs and so on, and that's basically sort of trained our ears to perceive these intervals in their slightly detuned way. Yeah? It is a rigid system. In this work we learn a little bit about the history of that, and it's a fascinating subject, why we came to that point, but more importantly, how can we tune the intervals in their natural form. And that kind of moves us away from this like rigid system and opens it up a little bit. It's also very beneficial to study some, let's say, non-European musics in which the intervals are simply tuned differently. And that again tells us a lot about our cultural history as a planet in a musical way. And basically just opens up our ears a little bit, yeah? Because a third is not always a third. It can be, you know, in all kinds of ways. And each particular way of tuning that is a very particular expression, yeah? And it gives us, like, you know, the ability to be more flexible with it, you know, how we're tuning our intervals, yeah? So it's moving away from being rigidly stuck in whatever system it is to a more kind of open, all-encompassing appreciation and a playing of music, yeah? Number 6, sin number 6, I would call not being in the flow state, what I call the flow state. This has a lot to do with just your body, how you feel when you're playing. I'm not going to do it so much in this particular masterclass, perhaps in another one, talking a lot about the breath, just the relaxation, and usually I look around and just spot a few things, common points of tension in saxophone players and so on. If we're not in that particular flow state, it's a little bit harder for us to really be in that relaxed state when we can really make the changes in an easy way while we're playing, yeah? So that's kind of a physical, mental physical state of just absolute relaxation while we're playing, the flow state, yeah? And lastly, sin number 7, I simply call the ego, yeah? This work, the subject is big, and we have to be humble, and we can always just go deeper and deeper and just keep refining it. You know, there's never really a stop point to this work, yeah? Some of us may be quite advanced players, maybe we're professors or teachers or whatnot, and we might falsely think that we've come to the point where we know the deal, we can intonate. But truth of the matter is, we can always push it further. We might have like hit the bullseye of the target with the arrow, but we could split that arrow again, or we could get closer to the middle of the tone. We could always learn more. We can just take more information from other cultures and other ways of tuning. We can then use that in our own musical world. So we can always just expand and keep on going. If you think carefully about it, the sin number 7 relates very closely to sin number 1. So those are my little 7 cardinal sins, and now we can go back to the masterclass. So we've got different chapters along the way, and we're going to begin with the exercise I always do every time. My students are getting sick of it, but it doesn't matter, and it's a visualization, really. And a lot of my work focus has been on also the mental side of playing, and I have a whole range of exercises without the saxophone as well. This one we can begin without the saxophone. I won't do all of them today, but the first one's very, very simple. Imagining we would all be here together, probably in a circle as a group, and I would ask you all to imagine as best you can your ideal, your favorite note, or a note you particularly like, and just to really internalize that note as best you can, take an inward breath and imagine you were playing your saxophone or your other instrument to the best of your ability. It's really just a mental thing, really, but the stronger you can visualize that, the more effective this. And I'm going to begin with this exercise, and I'll also end with it, So we just relax, standing, nicely connected to the ground. And in your own time, you're going to be just taking an inward breath, imagining that note, and while you do the outward breath, just really visualizing playing that note. And that's all it is. We just do that a couple of times, Okay, and then you can take your horn. You do the same thing without playing, inward breath and outward breath through the horn, just imagining that note. Okay, so once we have that ideal note inside ourselves, the next progression would be something I call random chords, in which we take that ideal note, play it together as a group, obviously everyone has a different note, I assume, and just hold that chord. Really simple, really. So we're just going to breathe in and just hold that together. If we were together as a group, it would sound something like this. Then I might ask you to change the note if you want to, but just keep that same kind of internalization, if possible, the note inside yourself before you play it, So in your own time, we'll breathe in together and just hold another chord, another random chord. Nice, and one more. Great. So we're just like warming up our horns, getting used to the sound of the whole group. And from there I do an exercise or a structure which I call monochrome. And this is what I just mentioned before about tuning into the group rather than tuning up to a note. So before we've even really tuned up to any note, we're just going to choose a tonality. In this case today I'm going to choose B major concert. You as the player can choose any note from that B major concert scale. And basically same principle, we're just holding long notes. You breathe in, you hold one of those notes, you blend with the group, you intonate in your own way, and stop. And then do the same thing again. What we're going to do then is just build like a kind of continuous chord together, almost like an organ-like chord. And we have all the time in the world now to tune into the group, to make the chord sound good, B major concert, let's give it a go. It would sound something like this if you were here, monochrome. and so on. So I'm obviously going a little bit faster now because you're not here. If you were, I'd really spend a bit of time on this one. It's a great warm-up for any kind of group, really. It gives us a chance to just tune into the group, and already intuitively we will be intonating these intervals in a natural or just intonation way without even having the knowledge at all. So this is just a good kind of icebreaker just to get into the work, tuning into the group, and from here I would progress up the harmonic ladder. So that's a little introduction just for now.
Hey guys, so now we come to the real meat, so to speak, of this intonation work. This is the harmonic ladder, and this is the part where I take you up the harmonic ladder and we learn, internalize, and play the intervals in their natural form. And it's a part I really urge you to internalize on a theoretical level, but especially on a practical level. Get these notes down, feel them, befriend them, and then use them. Because once we have this information, it makes it much easier for us to move in and out of various tuning systems. But this will give you a lot of pleasure, I hope, also this work. Harmonics, for me, are the enigmatic vibrational information in which pure sound becomes music. The harmonic ladder extends ad infinitum with neighboring whole numbers. And if you remember at the very beginning of this video, I sang a little bit under the bridge. Singing these harmonics, which in that case would have been 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. But we'll be playing them now in this particular part, playing the harmonics, and thus will be given the musical intervals in their rawest and most natural form. The only interval on the piano which is actually there in its natural form is the octave. And in my courses we talk a little bit about this and go into it in more detail. It's a fascinating subject, this whole story of tuning and why we tuned and what that tells us about our cultural history. But for this masterclass, I'm just going to focus on the actual practical information, going up the ladder step by step. And the journey begins with a 1, which in our musical language is the fundamental, the tonic. I'm going to use a low C on my alto, a concert E flat. And for this 1, first of all, I always just start off just by listening to the note itself. So I'm just going to play my alto, low C, and just listen to the note, see if you can pick up some overtones, some harmonics, see how it feels for you. Here we go. Simply by listening to this note is something I like to call timbral listening. We can spend quite a bit of time doing this, just listening to a single note, especially once we've had more information given to us with the harmonics, and just seeing which harmonics we pick up. What can we actually hear in a single note? This can be a really rewarding part in itself. Great, so I've got a little sky beamer up here behind me. I'm just going to put up there, just behind me, the harmonic, the number. You can see also the deviation in sense from the tempered tuning. Some of the symbols I like to use, just a bit of visual information as we go, but the main thing is really just the sound work itself, internalizing the sound of these individual intervals. And as we go up, I'll just mention to you a little bit about the notes, if there's something special, and we're going to go up today to harmonic 19. So, from the 1, the doubling, which is very important, the 1 doubles to become 2, the octave. And this is a beautiful interval which anyone in the world, I think, whether they're a musician or non-musician, could immediately hear whether it's on the button, in tune or not. So I'm just going to play that one for you. Hold my low C is the 1. I'm going to play the 2, the octave, until it really sings out and in tune. Here we go. Nice. So now we come up to step 3. The 3rd harmonic gives us the musical interval we know as a 5th. This is also an incredibly important step. For us musicians, for saxophone players, I find it also of great importance that we can play these 5ths in a pure, natural way immediately and right away when we hit a note, because it's after that we can really start with the expression, the vibrato, the inflection, and so on. But knowing how to tune them is a very important part. So listen to the sound of that. Now I'm going to say sometimes, give a ratio. to represent these intervals. So the fifth, the third harmonic, relating to the second, the octave, we could say is a 3-2. It's a vibrational relationship. We can call it 3-2, or we can call it a fifth. Yeah, I sometimes interchange these two forms of naming the intervals. But most importantly, how does it sound? And here you could hear me just sort of like sliding around with that top note. The bottom one was steady. I was just sliding around a little bit until I really feel that point where it really just locks in. So feel free to use a bit of glissando, also with your voice when you're singing it. And although we're playing now, if I had the time, we'd also be singing them at the same time. Going back and forth between singing and playing and singing and playing is a really, really beneficial tool for this tuning work. The fourth harmonic is the octave repeated. Yeah? The 1 doubles to become the 2 to become the 4, then to the 8, the 16, the 32, and so on. But the fourth harmonic relates to the third and gives us the fourth as we know it. The third harmonic is slightly higher, and it relates to the fourth, giving us the musical fourth. Listen to that. So that's pretty manageable. Now we come up to harmonic 5, and every time we hit a prime number, a new musical world opens up. Why is that? Because there's no doubling. 5 is only divisible by 5 and 1, whereas 4 was the octave doubled. Yeah. So every time we encounter a note like 5 or 7 or 11, a new musical world opens up. And this is a point of great fascination. And I'll come to the prime numbers a little bit later on. The fifth harmonic gives us our musical third as we know it. As you can see up there, it deviates by quite a long way from the piano third. And let me just play that for you until I really can lock it in. This nice, beautiful, pure harmonic major third, the 5-4 relationship. Isn't that nice? And just for fun, well, it's not really fun, it's actually quite tragic, but let's listen to the that third tuned in a tempered, piano-like way. Just listen to how different that is as a feeling. Yeah, well, what should I say to that? Does it bring back memories of your youth, your first bands, your first piano lessons? So the main information for you is it's pitched lower, it's 14 cents down in its natural harmonic form, and it really makes a difference in the timbre and the quality of the chords and your groups or ensembles when we are tuning these major thirds in this way. Of course, we can go back and we can adjust and play them in a tempered way, depending on the situation. But it's important in this work now because we're slowing it down. We have the time to learn, to feel, and to play these intervals in their natural form. So just moving up now to harmonic 6. And before I do that, just please don't be confused if I sometimes play these harmonics in different octaves. They remain intact, whatever octave I play them in. So sometimes I'll play my low C as harmonic 4. Sometimes it could be harmonic 8 or harmonic 16, depending on where I am, just to keep all the notes within my instrument in a manageable way. Okay? So if I just play from the backing tracks harmonic 4 and 5, and you hear the major third in its natural form, I'll play the 6 on top of that, and we have the classical major triad as we know it, harmonics 4, 5, and 6. Little small tribute there to Johnny Hodges, sliding in and finally resting on that like beautiful, perfect fifth 2 cents higher, so that the triad really begins to really sing out. And you will feel that when you lock into these intervals. There's kind of like a real humming quality that kind of like feels like we're just locking in, and that's easily done when we're together. Moving up now to the 7, harmonic 7. This is again a prime number. Again, it's a very, very new quality. It's kind of a dominant seventh, but it's very low, as you can see. But let's have a listen to it. How does it feel? So you hear harmonics 4 and 6 as a bass. I'm going to come in with the 7th harmonic, nice and low, 31 cents down. Then I'm going to play it again in its tempered version, which is high. Just listen to the quality, that's all. And then move it back one more time to its natural form. Let's listen to that. And this is a really good example of just how a small change in the intonation, in this case 31 cents, really is a complete change in the world, in the harmonic world, the space, the feeling, the effect, and so on. And so again, it's really rewarding to spend a bit of time feeling these differences. We're often raised with the feeling that the dominant 7th is kind of an interval that leads somewhere, that is somehow not quite at rest. Yet the feeling of this naturally tuned dominant 7th is very, very different. The 7th harmonic has a completely different quality, and I'm always cautious when it comes to using words to describe these things, but with the sound I think you can pick it up for yourself, and you will have your own very personal response and perhaps even your own terminology to describe these individual characteristics of these wonderful intervals. So when we come to the 8th harmonic again, this is the octave repeating, so there's no need for me to play it. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and so on. But following that comes harmonic 9, which is also a very, very important step. We have the 8 to 9 step, gives us the whole tone as we know it in its natural form. Now we also know, if we've done a bit of maths, that 3 times 3 is 9. And multiplying by 3, a harmonic by 3, raises it with the quality of the 5th. So if I have my harmonic 3, and then I play harmonic 9, we hear the interval of the 5th, albeit separated by an octave, but it doesn't matter. The 5th quality is there. And just as a point of interest, you can see that the harmonic 9 is tuned 4 cents higher. Now we know that the 3rd harmonic, the perfect 5th, is tuned 2 cents higher. So we can also see here that there's a perfect 5th between the harmonic 3 and 9, or a perfect 5th between the 5th and the 9th. Lots of numbers, but a very simple and beautiful sound, and a very important way to tune the 9th, relating it to the 5th, or the 3rd harmonic. Nice. So just to emphasize, this 9th harmonic also gives us the whole tone in its pure form, slightly higher than the tempered version, sounding like this, the 8 to 9. Nice. So now moving on to the 10. The 10 is actually nothing new for us. We know with our doubling octave knowledge that the 5, harmonic 5 doubles to become the 10, so it's the same note, the perfect natural major 3rd. Likewise the 20, the 40, and so on. So we'll just skip that for now, and we'll play that a little bit later when we play all the harmonics together as a chord. So we go to the 11. The 11 is again a prime number. It's a fascinating harmonic. This, as you can see up there, is low. It's almost exactly a quarter tone low. This is the first naturally occurring quarter tone in the harmonic series. Very, very beautiful, very, very particular notes. To give you a good chance to really hear it, I'll put it in the bass, harmonic 2, harmonic 3. I'll play the 11 in its naturally tuned form. Then I'll play the regular tritone as we know it. And then again the natural form, which is almost a quarter tone down. And again, just listen to the change in quality and what a fascinating color this harmonic has. So again, we have a vastly different tonal space and feeling here between these two worlds, simply initiated by a simple quarter tone in the middle. I sometimes call this interval the primordial blue note, and in the harmonic lecture from last year, I covered it in a little bit more detail, so maybe just check that out if you have the time. Moving on now to the 12th harmonic. Again, this is just a doubling of the 5th, the 3, the 6, the 12, the 24, and so on. So we know this interval, we can play this interval. Let's move up to the 13. The 13 is one of my personal favorites. Again, I've covered it in a little bit more detail. This is a very special note in between a major and a minor sixth. As you can see up there, I like to think of it as a major sixth, 59 cents low. Other people might think of it as a minor sixth, 41 cents high. That's up to you. Most importantly is the sound of this interval. Again, I'm going to just play a bass. I'm going to play the interval, the 13th harmonic. Then I'm going to play the regular major sixth. And again, the 13th harmonic. Just to feel the difference between these sound worlds and the feeling of the actual harmonic itself. Now, I haven't talked much about fingerings, but of course I am using some alternative fingerings to lower some of these notes. And I always urge my students to find their own fingerings. Sometimes I show them, but it's more effective if you can find them for yourselves. It's not hard to do. Sometimes you use your lip, but of course the ears are the main tool here. Now, just for fun, I could drop this beautiful Fibonacci interval because the 13 also gives us a gateway, or it's a portal into the world of Fibonacci, by playing harmonic 5, 8, and 13. Listen to the sound of that. As just an example of some of the beautiful worlds that can open up with this harmonic work. But for sure, in a practical sense, the 13 is another, how can I say, in-between interval, right in that gap. And just by practicing it, getting to know it, feeling it, learning the position, the fingering, and different keys, already really increases our sensitivity to other intervals. You know? So we're working now on this huge open expanse between the major and the minor sixth as we know it, or as we knew it before. Yeah. So whether or not you use these intervals or not in a practical playing situation or not doesn't really matter, because as we're working on this, you're really like fine-tuning your ears. And that's one of the real core principles of this work. Now, moving up to the 14, again, it's not a new interval for us because we know the 7, the very low, dominant 7th, doubles to become the 14 and the 28 and so on. So we'll skip that and go to the 15 up there. 15 is a very beautiful overtone, harmonic as well. It's kind of like the major 7 as we know it, although it's lower, as you can see. It's 12 cents lower. And this forms a perfect harmonic major third with the 5th. So to really feel that quality, let's listen to the 8, the 12, and then the 15 on top. Now, of course, I'm playing it very straight here. I could put a little bit more inflection to it, a bit of vibrato, but still have that central core, the harmonic tuning. Yeah, it's maybe a little bit early in the morning for jazz, but I'm sure you'll forgive me for that one. And just as a little point of interest, the 15 is obviously 3 times 5 or 5 times 3. In our harmonic language, that means that that note is the perfect harmonic 5th of the 3rd or the perfect harmonic 3rd of the 5th. Yeah, just spend some time just contemplating that. I think you can internalize that. There are 2 ways then you can perfectly intonate that interval within the chord. Moving up to the 16, again, this is nothing new. The 16 is the octave repeating in a higher form. And I did talk a little bit about this in the previous video, this incredible importance and power of the octave to transpose information but still keep it intact through the halving or the doubling power. So we have at the 16 a higher version of the 1. The 17, however, is a new color. It's a prime number, and it's the closest we have up till now to a half tone or semitone, as we'd call it. As you can see up there, it's only 5 cents higher than the tempered version. In jazz, we'd call it a flat 9, and it sounds like this.
Thank you.
Nice. So we're almost at the top rung of our ladder for now. The 18 is again the 9, repeated in a higher octave, so we know this interval. And the last one is the prime number 19. And I've just thrown this one in because it's a beautiful example of a minor third. It's only 2 cents out from its equal temperament counterpart. As a prime number, it's a new quality, a new sound in the row, and it sounds like this. It's very familiar for us. Nice. So in this world of just intonation or harmonic tuning, often we prefer to use the lower whole numbers. For example, some people would like to use the 5 to 6 as an example of the minor third, but you're completely free. I personally love this 19 harmonic sound as a beautiful example of how the minor third can sound in a natural form. It's also very close to equal temperament, but it's really always up to you to make your own decisions where to pitch the notes, what sounds good for you. And at this stage, after playing them all individually, I'd start to play them as a group. And this is a great way just to really get into the sound, feel the individual harmonics, see how they feel, how they resonate with the other harmonics. And so I could just simply build the chord up, starting with a low 1 on the monochord, and a bass clarinet, if we had one, and then just calling off the overtones one by one until the whole chord is just standing there in its pure form. So here we go, starting with harmonic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Beautiful. So it's now in a group. We would really start to internalize and play these. If you're by yourself, you could be playing them over a drone, just to slowly get used to these notes. But I find it's really in a group, as a group, that we can really go deeper into this world. Playing over a drone, like a Shruti box, for example, I now have the intervals in their natural form, and I can play, for example, even just a major scale, tuning each note according to its harmonic origin, so to speak. So yeah, I encourage you to take this information, have fun with it, be creative with it. Hear the form itself as the teacher, and I'm quite sure you'll have some useful insights along the way on this voyage.
Hey guys, so at this stage of the work, after we've gone up through the harmonic series, we've internalized a little bit these intervals, their natural forms. I also like to throw in some simple songs so we can immediately apply this information. So what I've done over the years is collect some spiritual, gospel, folk songs. I call this kind of like gold digging for my students. I comb through lots of songs. I find like little gems, little nuggets. Could be a beautiful melody, could be a nice text, and they all have nice texts. These are the songs. We learn them by ear, and I really urge you, you must learn them by ear if you want to internalize these songs. We usually go step by step. 4 bars at a time, whatever. We learn the melody, we learn the bass, and the video I did last year, I mentioned, I'll just briefly cover this now, that I used the Indian solfege, the sargam, sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, to learn the bass notes. So we'll learn the melody, and then we'll be singing like sa ma pa sa da sa, and so on. So we really internalize all the parts of the song, the words, the melody, and the bass. Yeah. Once we've done that, then we can really like play it together, and I don't know, just choose any one of these songs. For example, Nearer to Thee, for example. Right away, right off the bat, the first note is the third down, wah, da, 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 and then we've got like the fifth of the fourth, da, 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 and the third. So all these intervals we have to be like just changing a little bit, adjusting, and it's really nice to at this point throw in these simple forms so we can immediately just apply this stuff. Yeah, I'll say one more thing about this, and that is you when you're playing these simple forms. Could be a blues, could be like a melody like this. You're essentially naked. I hear you. I hear how much intention, how much you're putting into the sound, into the notes, your intonation. You can't really hide anything. So this is a good thing about these simple ones. They're beautiful melodies. They're really great, and they show you who you really are, yeah, as a musician, yeah. So I like to put a bit of emphasis on getting these ones down. Plus, there's one more thing, beautiful thing. All these 12 melodies I collected can also be used as dirges or New Orleans slow march, yeah, which is the cluck, cluck, cluck. That's the basic rhythm. So I often like in the groups when we can to also march with these, because the act of just moving while playing is good on many levels, you know, just for the whole body and whatnot. So we'd have like something like and so on, yeah? So just a couple of little points there. And be creative, you know, you can find your own songs. There's beautiful, there's a huge repertoire out there which you can tap into and use to apply the harmonic knowledge in a very practical, easy way, okay? So yeah, the phenomena of difference tones can be a really useful way to really tune our intervals exactly, and this is an interesting phenomena which I'm just going to demonstrate here with 2 saxophones. It's best heard with higher instruments, with flutes, with oboes. Alto sax is cool. Tenor starts to get a little bit tricky just because the difference tones are lower. It's an acoustic phenomena due to the non-linearity of our ears. And basically when I play my tone and my friend over there plays the other tone, we have a third tone. My frequency minus his frequency gives us this lower difference tone. Or, as I like to do it, my harmonic minus his harmonic gives us this lower harmonic which we perceive. Very nice. So here's some examples for you. Nice. Hey, so welcome to the cluster part of this masterclass. Clusters are something I like to just throw in sometimes, just for fun. Just to have another way to move into the sound or listen into the sound. It's very simple. We just assign ourselves each note, and the first cluster we're going to do is a semitone cluster. So sadly you're not present here, so I'm just going to ask the trees to help me out here. And I'm just going to go around, call the note, and I'm just going to hold that chord and just listen to it. That's all, really simple. Starting from a high C on the alto, so going downwards. So I'll just like point to you, you just play the note, you know. C, B, B flat, A flat, G, F sharp, F, E, E flat, D, D flat, C. Yeah, really nice. Again, just take your time, listen into it as we're playing, because by now our ears are really in tune to the group. Let's do the same cluster, but we'll drop it down an octave. Okay? Same notes, just down an octave. All together. Something else that's nice, which I like to also throw in, is just to get that kind of point in between air and sound. Very, very special part of the saxophone playing. Let's have that same lower cluster, but just on the cusp between air and sound. Here we go. Nice. These clusters give you like a chance to kind of, I like to say, kind of move into the sound or move through the sound. As you hear, you may hear certain difference tones, some louder than others. It's probably going to be different for every one of us. It's just a nice chance sometimes, a kind of musical structure that doesn't like put it down on the plate, what you receive, but like leaves it up to you to kind of find your way through it, which is very nice. The other form of cluster I like to do is a quarter tone cluster. Way back in the 90s, I developed some quarter tone fingering for the saxophone. I urge all my students to find out their own fingerings. It's not so hard to do, just experiment till you get them. And this gives like the cluster a different color now. So again, I'm just going to call the notes off. Starting over this time, over here with you guys. So again, high C, C quarter tone flat, B, B quarter tone flat, B flat, A quarter tone sharp, A quarter tone flat, A flat, G quarter tone sharp, G quarter tone flat, F sharp, F quarter tone up, F quarter tone down, and take the E. Very nice. And that same cluster, let's drop it down an octave, all the same notes. And let's have that kind of in-between state again, in between the sound and the air. Beautiful. And while we're at it, let's drop an overtone chord. Why not? Now we've got all the overtones down up to number 19, so I can just call them off and we can just hold them and just build a chord going from the 19 probably down to the 4, unless we've got a baritone sax here. Any baritones here? Baritones going? No. So 19 down to 4, okay? All right, over here. 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and take the 4. And again, it's a structure we can play around with. We could, of course, switch the notes. We could play it freely. I could assign them. There's lots of different variations there. We could also change the key. But what's really important is that we're locked in together. We're just feeling that kind of humming, that, you know, that chord, just the way it just like beautifully just locks in, yeah? So just a couple of little inserts there. Hey guys, this is just a quick little insert into the masterclass about transposition, something I really recommend, and just a little idea of how you can like work with that. Very simple concept. You choose a melody, choose something you can internalize and learn by heart. I've just taken today, just for fun, one of the slow movements, the saraband from a Bach suite. What's important is after you've internalized it, not just the melody, but also the harmony, yeah? We're gonna just start to move it around some keys, yeah? It's really important when we do that we just have this kind of feeling of the harmonic movement inside ourselves. So just, for example, just the first few bars of this melody. Now, when I'm playing that, I'm really thinking like 1, 1, 4, 5, 1 leading to the 4, ba-da-da-da. So this kind of harmonic movement is really much inside myself. I'm not thinking about like switching up so-and-so semitones or down, but rather just harmonically, yeah? Once we can internalize that and go very slow, then each time you play it, each day you play it in your daily practice routine, you can just move it to some other key. And so on, yeah? Go slow, take your time, be creative with your choice of melody, but take something that you really love, you really like, yeah? But it's like more fun just to slowly bring that around. And also the spiritual gospel songs I've showed you, they're also great candidates for just moving around the keys. Each time you play them in a different key, yeah? Easy.
So now we come to the brainwave part of the masterclass, something I've always been interested in. There are several measurable different frequencies of the brain depending on our states of consciousness. And here we can use music and we can use our harmonic knowledge to actually play chords that mirror the frequencies. Now, if you were paying attention, of course you were, during my difference tone segment, you would have heard that one of the notes I played used two different hertz frequencies. When we have two notes that are very close together, the hertz difference gives us a very, very low difference tone, which we perceive as kind of beating. So for example, if I was going to play a top C on my alto with a hertz frequency of 622, and then another note 27 hertz lower, we would perceive a 27 hertz beating kind of low note, which is in the range of the beta waves, which is really kind of our waking, busy bee daytime state. Let's see how that sounds. Now, if the second note is pitched 12 hertz tiefer, this would put us in the alpha wave range, kind of like a meditative state, a much more relaxed brain state. Listen to those two together. And finally, the theta wave state, which is really deep, deep meditation or perhaps even sleep in the range from 3 to 8 hertz. So if the second note is only pitched 5 hertz lower, this will give us a very, very deep difference tone of 5 hertz. Thinking musically, what I could maybe do now is encase these three chords, these very dense chords, in a more harmonic-based covering, using a couple of harmonics from our ladder. And I'll just stress at this point, even though I know it's not easy to get so close to a note to produce these very low difference tones and to hear them and to even count them, but even the act of trying to do it and getting as close as you can is really going a long way to fine-tune your ears, so to speak. And that's what a lot of this intonation work is about. Just starting to get to know, to play these very, very, very fine, subtle differences in tone. This in turn lends your playing a great deal more of flexibility and ability to adapt to situations.
Okay guys, this little structure is called falling overtones or harmonic waterfall. Very, very simple. We have three notes we use: low B flat, low B, and low C sharp. Yeah. Each of those notes though, we use the second and the third overblown harmonic as well. Yeah. So from the low B flat we have those three notes. From the low B we have and the low C sharp. Yeah, that's it. Now we're just going to hold the notes, any one of those notes, yeah? And we can either hold the note or we can let it fall down to its fundamental. That's all it is, yeah? We build a chord like that. There's no tongue, just like with the other exercises. You just make a nice homogeneous sound using those three low-fingered notes with the two overblown harmonics. Here we go. So this little chapter is going to be about prime numbers. I mentioned them before, they're very important in this work, and I found them an area of great fascination. In the harmonic series, every time we encounter a prime numbered harmonic, we're gifted with a very, very new quality. Yeah, this begins right from the start. 1 or 2 are the beginning of the row, the root, the home. 2, the octave. 3, the very first time that the quality of the perfect fifth or the primordial fifth appears. And this continues with the prime numbers. The 5th harmonic is the first time the major third is manifested. The 7th, the 11th, the primordial blue note, and so on. And this is really to do with the doubling, because the prime numbers, as you know, are only divisible by themselves in 1. There's no doubling in this. There's no possibility for octaves. Whereas the 4 is the doubling of the 2, or the 6 of the 3, and so on. It's a very short explanation. What I'm going to do, just to make that audible, is play some of these, pan up to the sky and just show you the numbers, play some of these prime numbered harmonics. I'm doing this over a bass which is slightly lower. We sometimes call scientific pitch or philosopher's pitch, in which the C's are tuned to 128 Hertz or 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. It gives us a lot of whole numbers to work with, which can be fun and also a different quality. So over this Tampura bass, I'm just going to be playing some prime numbered harmonics, and just bear in mind there's an infinite number of prime numbers, which means for us there's an infinite number of new colors or qualities within the octave, which in itself is a little idea worthy of some consideration. So yeah, here we go. I'm just going to play these prime numbers for you.
1, 3, 5, 7, 11, 12, 17, 19, 23, 29, 31, 37, 41, 43, 47, 53, 59, 61, 67, 71, 73, 79, 83, 89, 97, 'And now the sound of the previous primes from 1 to 97 played simultaneously. Hey, so to further internalize the prime work, let's go back down to some of the earlier primes and let's listen to them now in their rawest, most natural form. What better way to do that, to show that than with a bagpipe? And the bagpipe features 1, prime 3, 5 and 7 in a way that we can all perceive and hopefully enjoy. Let's do that. Let me play that. And let's move up to the sky and then make some chords with some of the higher prime numbers and just perceive how new and interesting these colors are, if I may. Applications, yeah? So I'm often asked about this work, okay, this is all fine, but how can I apply this stuff? What can I actually do? So I'm just going to give you 5 bullet points for some applications. Number 1, play over a drone, yeah?
all these natural intervals are really important in that we relate them to the one, to the fundamental. So you can do that with a Sruti box, with a tampura, with an electronic drone, with a friend who's just holding the fundamental. Slow the stuff down and make sure you're really having all those intervals sounding out nicely, yeah, over a drone. If there's one thing I'd like to have given you with this class, it would be that at least the fifths, the primal fifths are in tune. That beautiful, that sound, yeah? So that you can hit those fifths always right off the bat, straight away, yeah? They're nicely locked in. And that's a feeling I think you can really develop if you've just spent a bit of time doing that with a friend, yeah? Relating to number 2, yeah? Play with others. Yeah? This intonation work really like takes off and is effective when you do it in groups, yeah? Something we can't really do today. So get together, whether it's your quartets or whatever, slow the music down, maybe just focus in on one chord or one bar. Really take your time until the chords are really humming and singing and just really locked in that nice natural way, using the work that we're covering in this video, yeah? So with the group you can really like achieve a lot, yeah? Number 3 can be a bit painful, but record yourself, yeah? By listening to yourself, playing over a drone or whatever, you're going to pick up some things that you might not catch in the moment of actual playing, yeah? So yeah, it can be painful, but it can also be really beneficial. Number 4, simply internalize all this work, yeah? You're going to have to do a bit of theory here to learn these intervals. Once you've done that, internalize it, apply it to songs, and then I think you're going to have it. And lastly, number 5, make yourself or write yourself your own little studies or practices or even pieces, yeah? Once you've done that, and once you play that, and especially once you play it in a live situation, once you perform it, and you've really come to the point where you've really internalized this stuff and you really feel confident about playing it, and that's what it's all about in the end, okay? So there's 5 little points of applications that can maybe help you along this path. So I'm sometimes asked to give some literature or book recommendations for this work, and I just thought I'd just choose a few for today. Not so easy because I tend to sort of pick and choose my information. I find books often have like a few little interesting parts in them, but maybe not the whole thing. However, here's 4 that might be useful for you. The first one, the Just Intonation Primer, is a very good introduction to this work, to just intonation and natural intervals. It's not long, but it gives you a good sort of like grounding, theoretical grounding. The second one up there, Praktische Intonationslehre für Instrumentalisten und Sänger, is sadly only in German. However, it's a very comprehensive and practical book, also with some sound examples and ear training. And Doris really takes you through all kinds of tuning systems and applications, so that's a really good one. The third one up there is a real classic, a little bit technical perhaps for some, but maybe one of the first real important texts when it came to the nature of sound and why these natural intervals are so pleasing and important for us. And the fourth one is a nice story by quite an eccentric guy, Harry Parch, who really went quite deeply into this whole tuning world and also constructed his own instruments. Might not be to everyone's taste, but the journey itself and the way he writes is amusing and entertaining. So I'm sure you'll find some other ones out there, but just for now, just a couple just to accompany this little masterclass here. So we're coming now to the end of this little masterclass. Thank you so much for joining me, and I really hope that you got some good information from it and you can go away and apply some of this in your own music making, wherever that may be. I also really hope that one day our paths may cross and we may play together, because of course all this work really is most of all fun when we can actually play together in person. So as I mentioned, I'm going to finish in the same way I started, with my little visualization exercise. And as I mentioned, the stronger we can have that sense of the note in our body, the more powerful the exercise is. But it goes to another level, and I have no problems to share that. And it's something I feel very strongly about, because it is my deep belief that if we have that strong sense of that note in connection with the breath, inward breath gathering the intention, so to speak, and the outward breath with the note itself, that the note is actually physically there. It's not just in my imagination. It is actually there, as a thing. And that for me is really, on a deep level, the absolute proof of the connection between consciousness and matter. I really believe that. Yeah. So on that note, I'm going to finish, and thank you so much. and wish you all the best.
Hey, so if you'd like to organize an in-person masterclass sometime, or even make a little donation via PayPal to help me continue this work and perhaps make some more videos, just use the email address below, and any help is greatly appreciated. Thanks so much.